The last sector, and that also brings me to answer some of the points that Madam Abiba mentioned, is on institution and capacity building. When we assumed office as a new commission, we, of course, inherited progress that has been made by the commission, the first commission. This is the second commission that was elected in the work that they have done. We have continued to build on that, and some of the areas we are focused on is to continue the institution. First, in the area of human and financial resources. This is an area we have looked at in terms of not only having adequate resources, but improving in the management and efficiency of resource utilization. Concerning finance, we are fortunate that we continue to see expansion of support internally and externally, and I can tell you that even our member states have consistently supported the institution, meeting their obligations, and also ensuring that our resources not only come in time, but we are able to implement, and the oversight role has also been very effective. This is one of the things that has happened in the last 3 years. Here, may I just indicate that as we sit here now, we have already approved the budget for 2012, and it is under implementation. This could have been the case last year. One of the things we are now improving is to ensure that we can implement even the budget on time, and also make audit on time, and account for the resources on time. For the year 2012, the budget that has been approved is a total of 274 million. Out of these, 152 is for development. And I should just inform you that of this amount, a significant portion of it is contributed by our development partners. This is, of course, of concern to us. Concern that we don't have enough resources to implement all the programs that are on our development agenda. If you look at the resources we need under peace and security, what we are spending, for instance, on AMISOM, our forces in Somalia, is a lot. We want to thank the international community that comes in to help. I didn't include the figure on peace and security among the 274 million. What we require to implement infrastructure programs, to do regional bankable projects, prepare them so that we can mobilize resources for implementation. What we need to implement CADIP, all these resources, when you look at the needs, is far more than what we have as available resources. That is why, in the wisdom of heads of state and government, they have established a committee, a high-level committee led by President Obasanjo, and we'll be presenting the report in the coming months for us to think of how we can mobilize adequate resources for implementation. Now, that brings me to the second point, and that is on the human resource factor. My boss always remarks that if you look at the continent of 54 countries, if you look at the programs we implement, the variety of the programs, from peace and security, infrastructure, international relations, and if you compare the human factor that we have, you can't believe it, that all this is being done by individuals that number less than 1,000. And what my boss always says, go, for instance, to the European Union, go to one department, the External Action Service, led by Madam Ashton. She has a staff of almost 6,000. How do you reconcile that one department in the EU has 6 times what the African Union has, and yet we are implementing the whole gamut of programs in the continent? Of course, that's why you really have to see how economic our institution is, but also the challenges I've just mentioned in terms of the resources that we need, both human and financial, but also the human factor. And that also brings me to another element of our human resource. One thing that we have now introduced is to make sure that this institution give its stakeholders value for money. And that's where we are moved away from just calling meetings and all this, but making sure that we move to results-based activities. This is something that I thought you should appreciate. Now, still talking about strategic partnership, something I should have mentioned. We have now very strong strategic partnerships with the international community. Those strategic partnerships, for instance, we have a standing dialogue with the European Union, which is our largest trading partner and our neighbor that spans all the activities that we undertake. With this partnership, we have regular summits that take place every 2 years. And in these summits, we develop an action plan and a report and ensure that this is being done on the ground. We have similar dialogue with a number of partners, for instance, China, and you see what the partnership with China are doing. If you look to your back, I'm sure you have seen that magnificent building, which has been contributed with the support of China, which is one of those, is the fruits of that partnership. When we meet, we have partnership with India. We are developing partnership with the US. We have partnership, we are working with South America. We have partnership with Turkey. We have partnership, have I left out any? And we are still open to do partnership with even more countries. We have with TICAD with Japan. What is important is for us to see how we manage this partnership in a smart way where we recognize their comparative advantage, Africa's comparative advantage, and work for the mutual benefit of the two partners. Now, let me then come to the last item that Madam Abiba wanted me to talk about, and that is the theme of the summit, boosting intra-African trade. We will be giving you a printout. You will see for yourself the statistics. You will see the challenges that face Africa. But I always like to see these as opportunities. Africa is here to trade with itself. And I'm always excited that when Africa starts to trade with itself, what will happen? At the moment, our studies tell us, if we remove bottlenecks, if we remove bureaucracy, if we facilitate intra-African trade without even any additional investment, we can see an additional 34 billion annually. Imagine what 34 billion would do to the continent in terms of employment, in terms of wealth creation, in terms of expansion of our economies. That is why our heads of state and government chose to have this as a theme. And for this, we're expecting 3-4 main outcomes. First, the heads of state are going to discuss on arrangement to create a continent-wide free trade area. If they agree on that continent-wide free trade area, then they will develop a roadmap to take us to the free trade area. For the time being, the ministers have recommended that the free trade area be there by 2017. This free trade area, the action plan will rest on what the regional economic communities are doing. Already progress has been made by regional economic communities like SADC, like COMESA, like East African Community, which are already working towards a tripartite free trade area. And you know how big that is. 26 countries, more than half of Africa. So what we are doing is to build on the progress that has been made for us to achieve that continent-wide. So the first is to agree on that. Second, have a roadmap. And the third one, have a structure that can manage it. A structure similar to that of peace and security. A structure that will mean a committee of heads of state and government that will meet regularly to make sure these matters are being discussed and report to the summit. Have a high-level ministerial team and have a negotiating forum that will also prepare agenda and make sure that we are promoting inter-African trade. There are a number of things that we are looking at as obstacles to trade. These range from infrastructure, from accessing finance, from adding value to our products in the region, and first of all, what I've just mentioned, removing bureaucracy. For instance, in some of the countries, it takes so long to clear goods from customs, to cross borders, so that you can remove police barriers and so forth. These are the issues that we need to confront. And if you see where they have been addressed in some of the regional economic communities, trade is expanding. And when we create this huge economic space, Africa can then have economies of scale so that Africa can be competitive, and you will start to see larger industries establishing them in Africa, establishing themselves in Africa, and you will start to see Africa growing and becoming part of the global economic system. So thank you very much, members of the Fourth Estate. We now welcome your comments and observations.